speaker we have coming up is Patrick Dennis from the,
that was me.
from the Department of Technology, who's going to be providing an update on the State Technology Approval Reform, or STAR project.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Grant. Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Dennis. I'm the Policy and Procedures Development Lead for the STAR project. That's a State Technology Approval Reform project. So I'm here this morning to talk to you a little bit about some of the efforts that we're doing at the Department of Technology to make projects more successful and to hopefully influence that success through the approval life cycle. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're working on. Today we're going to present to you, we'll talk about the purpose of the STAR project, why are we doing what we're doing at the Department of Technology to re-engineer the project approval life cycle. I'll also talk to you about the project's mission, goals, and benefits. We'll take a look at the stage gate model, which is our new project approval framework that we're moving towards for the approval of IT projects in the state of California. We'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll educate you about the stage gate model itself. We'll talk about some advantages of the stage gate model, why are we moving towards that model, and what advantages we should all gain from transferring to that model. We'll talk about some guiding principles that we use. When we first started off in the STAR project, we established some principles that we were going to use when we were developing the new process, and that was really based upon a lot of lessons learned and a lot of pains that projects had experienced. We'll go over the development approach, kind of what's our approach towards developing the policy and procedures. We've already started that effort. I'll give you a quick update on where we are now, a high-level project timeline. I'll share that with you, and then we'll give you a final status on kind of where we are. So I'm going to ask that you hold your questions till the end, and they're interested in getting through the material. I'm going to kind of go through this very quickly. I can always go back to any frame in the presentation to address any questions that you might have. So why are we changing the way we do business? Why are we doing what we're doing here at the Department of Technology? Why are we changing things up? And really that's because the current FSR process is really about 30 years old. It was created by the Department of Finance, and it was in need of some change. And the process currently doesn't really focus on the business need. It really focused on IT acquisitions of IT solutions. It's based on mainframe technology, and those current and not current data center models. It was really more mainframe based. Technology wasn't as widely used by the state of California as much as it is now. And most recently, the governor's office, the legislature, and the state's policy and information technology communities identified the feasibility study report as a process area that needed to be revised and updated. So our state technology approval reform project has a mission, and that is to transform IT project approval process to inform the planning, quality, and value and likelihood of success of IT projects. So in short, we're trying to influence projects to make them more successful. Some of our project goals and benefits that we're hoping to attain through the project is to create an efficient and effective process, to reduce project risk early in the process, build collaborative partnerships, improve project success ultimately, that's the big one, define project data needs, and improve project approval integrity. So the stage gate model. The stage gate model provides opportunities to redirect efforts and stop projects early in the process if things are not being planned properly. It uses stages and gates of approval for a stop and rethink, or a go-forward decision can be made much earlier in the process in order to prevent unnecessary expenditures or things of that nature. It also uses scorecards with defined approval criteria at each gate, and we're going to share those scorecards and have some transparency in the process so that departments and agencies know what they're being, how their projects are going to be approved in advance. So here's the project approval life cycle, or the stage gate model. Many of you are already familiar with the stage one business analysis. The policy for that was implemented back last September in September of 2013. We've already worked on one iteration of S1BAs that have come in from different departments and agencies, and we've already reviewed and approved the majority of those. That's the concentration on the business problem, trying to establish a logical and defendable business case identifying your key stakeholders, and assessing your organizational readiness for taking on that particular initiative. We've learned some lessons in that process, and we're currently in the process of taking a look at using those lessons learned to modify the current stage 1 business analysis, change it, and make improvements to it in our next policy release. Stage 2 is your alternatives analysis. So between stage 1 and stage 2, you really have part and parcel of what used to be your feasibility study report, right? It is assessing your current business processes. Do you know what your business processes are doing? Are they documented? Developing business requirements. Talking about alternative solutions, really your alternatives analysis. What are the alternatives that we're going to take a look at? What's the type of market research that we're going to do? And in order to justify our selected alternative. We're going to have our recommended alternative, our suggested recommended solution at that point. And then this is the first part where we really start to take a look at that procurement strategy moving into stage 3. You'll notice the stoplights, that's really the go, no-go, or the review by the Department of Technology to approve the department to move forward on this particular initiative. The proper amount of planning has been done, and the Department of Technology and the department are comfortable moving forward with this particular initiative. So that's what the stoplights represent. Stage 3 is really a procurement analysis. So what we've done in the stage gate model is really taken the procurement process that is typically done after project initiation and moved it into the project approval lifecycle. Okay, and we're going to gain some serious benefits from that. One of which is to make sure that the integrity of the project that's approved is there, and really that the baseline cost, schedule, and scope is representative of what the project's actually going to be. And so that was the primary objective of moving the procurement cycle into the project approval life cycle. Stage 3, like I said, is your procurement analysis. It has your development of your solution requirements. It's development of your request for proposal, if that's your procurement vehicle. And then stage 4 is your solution analysis, where you actually have your vendor selection and your project baselines. Once those things are achieved, that's when we're going to move forward with the proper project funding vehicle and have it receive approval through the state budget process and your legislature. Across the bottom, you'll notice that there's a Department of Technology oversight and state entity collaboration. One thing that we're doing for the STAR project that we're putting a heavy emphasis on is we're identifying things that we're calling opportunities for engagement. So along the way, we're going to identify what is the right opportunity for the Department of Technology to engage with the process, with the department, with the agency, and get the correct players in the room and get everybody on the same page. And we're calling those opportunities for engagement, and that's what that really is. That's that collaboration, right? All too often, communication breaks down during the process, or all too often today, your feasibility study is approved, you move into initiation, you move into your procurement, and you get there, and everything that you hear is, sometimes new to you. And the requirements are sometimes not communicated as early as they can be. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is collaborate along the way so that we're able to identify and tell departments and agencies, these are your expectations, instead of expectations early and often engagement. And then we're going to have a phased release beginning late in 2014. I'll talk about that more soon. So some of the advantages of the stage gate model, I've probably touched on some of these already in my previous slide, but it improves efficiencies without compromising the due diligence of the process. It ensures each step works together. Each deliverable actually builds upon each other to complete your project approval package. And it ensures that decision points are visited early, and you get to that no decision or that go back and rethinks decision much sooner in the process. And hopefully, the ultimate goal, right, which we talked about earlier, was to result in more successful IT projects in the state of California. So what were some of our guiding principles when we started the development of the STAR project for the policies and procedures? We wanted to create a flexible and nimble and repeatable process. We wanted to create consistent and dependable process that aligns with procurement and the budget cycle. Here in the state of California, we have a budget cycle that is pretty set. And so we knew at the Department of Technology that whatever we designed needed to align with that budget cycle. And so we're working diligently to identify opportunities and alignments that will work and help departments be successful. It helps create a seamless, we're going to help to create a seamless transition for projects that are underway. We realized we were going to have some overlap for projects that are currently, have either had a stage 1 business analysis approved or maybe even a previous IT project concept. We're aware that we're going to have some people who are currently developing FSRs, right? So we want to make sure that one of the guiding principles that we have is that we're aligning and thinking about those people's needs. We're not just going to, throw this new process on them and be like, okay, you have to redo all your work you've already done, right? We're going to collect the right information at the right time. This is a big one. We have a lot of stress on this. We heard some concerns and some complaints about, Department of Technology is always asking us for this information. They ask us for the same thing again and again. We provide it to them. We don't know exactly what happens with it, but yet they're asking it for us again, for it again. So we want to collect the right information to collect the right information at the right time to make the decisions, sound business decisions to move forward with the approval. We want to create reusable tools, right? Because not every project is going to be reportable to the Department of Technology. So the tools that we develop, we want to be able to share with agencies and with departments for those that are under their delegated authority or may be delegated back for their approval. And again, we want to create transparent approval processes and provide efficient and effective and consistent feedback. So our development approach, the policy and procedures are based on the stage gate model. I kind of touched on that already. We have included members. We've already started. Following our kickoff back in April of this year, we actually solicited agencies and departments AIO, CIOs and agency AIOs for representatives to serve on the policy and procedure development team. I think we have representation from like 10 of the 11 agencies on our team. It is working fantastically. We have had great input. The team members are coming very excited, and it's been a great value, and we're looking forward to continuing that. So, we're thinking that collaboration is going to be very helpful moving forward. Approval models of different tracks of approval will be developed, and that's really along the lines of we're not going to treat all initiatives the same. Quite typically, the project approval lifecycle was more of a cookie cutter process where everybody was applied the same rigor. We're going to move forward trying to get away from that, and we're going to try to concentrate on those initiatives that need the most attention. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at things and create approval models that are going to be based upon organizational readiness, right? Risk, what's the risk inherent to this particular initiative? And we're going to be taking a look at the business value for all of those initiatives that as well to determine the rigor to be applied at each stage moving forward. I touched on the opportunities for engagement already, building collaborative relationships, and focusing on the value at the right time. So we're making sure that, again, we're focusing our attention where it's needed most and on those initiatives that need the most attention moving forward. Okay, we're also, like I said, we're going to develop a process that supports project funding and requests and aligns with the budget cycle and the federal approval processes as well. We know federal projects. We're going to take in consideration the federal approval process, alternate funding sources, things of that nature when we're developing the processes so we can make sure we account for most everybody's needs. And then we're also going to conduct analysis sessions to include it as an educational component. When we onboarded the policy and procedure team members from the different agencies and departments that are on our team, we held a series of educational sessions to make sure that everybody started off their development at the same level of knowledge, basically, or standard baseline about the policies and procedures that were currently in place. And so we had some guest speakers and some educators come to some of our preliminary sessions, and provide those, and ended up being a very valuable approach. Some more things. I touched on the fact that the process will not be one size fits all. We're really going to take a look at making sure that we're applying the proper amount of rigor where it's needed most. We're not going to treat the $200,000 low risk initiative the same as the $200 million high risk initiatives. We're going to request the right information at the right time. Once again, we're going through and we're trying to identify where in the stage gate model and where in the process is the best time to ask the right questions, ask for what information in order to make sound business decisions moving forward. We're going to hopefully implement scalable procurement options when you get to when you begin to exit stage 2 and start thinking about your procurement alternatives. We're going to hope to have the availability of some scalable procurement options that best fit and meet the needs of that particular initiative for that particular organization. And so we're making strides in that area already. And we're going to align the oversight framework with the new project approval lifecycle. So one thing we're going to do is, we're changing the way we approve IT projects in the state of California. Well, one thing that we also have responsibility for in our IT project oversight and consulting division is project oversight. And so there's going to be some natural overlap there. And so what we're hoping to do, or what we're going to do, is make sure that the project approval oversight, the oversight framework aligns with the new project approval lifecycle. And so there will be some changes that will need to be needed there, and we'll address those along the way. So where are we now? From a policy perspective, with the release of TL 1302, which I touched on last September, the stage 1 business analysis is now in policy and has replaced the IT concept statement. And so where we are currently is at the stage 1 business analysis, and then the feasibility study report is still in play, with that stage 1 business analysis replacing section 3 of your feasibility study. We're still using the standard RFP in our procurement after project initiation. SPR is still in play for project deviations. And then finally, the project approval, the project is peered out and the project is closed at that point when the project is complete. In the future, we're going to move towards the stage 1 business analysis, stage 2 alternatives analysis, and basically the stage gate framework to finish it up. So that's where we're headed. So what's our high-level project timeline? When is this stuff going to affect you on your daily job? We had our project kickoff meeting back in April. Our policy and procedure analysis has already started. It should be wrapping up around August. We're hoping to have revised stage 1, gate 1, and a new stage 2 alternatives analysis policy rolled out by the end of the year. Also, we're going to reach out and have some comprehensive training and outreach from that time forward. We made a 6-month gap purposely between releasing the policy and actually having the policy be effective. And that was done on purpose for very specific reasons, because what we're going to do is on the policy and procedure development team, we're going to solicit some of the AIOs that are on our team and say, give us real projects, right? We want to give this thing a test run. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pilot out the policy, we're going to pilot the procedures with real life examples and real life projects. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow us a 6-month refinement period, right? We're going to have an opportunity to learn some lessons. And so when we do that, we'll also be able to incorporate refinements into stage gate 3 and 4 that will currently be in development at that time, so that we can make perfective changes to that policy and procedure before it's released. So we're looking at, back to the timeline, right? We're looking at releasing the revised stage 1 and 2 at the end of the year with an effective date of June of 2015. And then a policy release for stage 3, the procurement phases and solution phase in June of 2015. And then again, another 6-month period for policy and procedure refinement. So that's our timeline. Our current project transitions to M&O, maintenance and operations, in March 2016. And our preliminary project, release 1 of the STAR project, will then come to an end. I may make a note that there is a stage 2 or release 2 of the STAR project, which is the automation project, where we're going to set forth on hopefully, possibly procuring a solution provider and automating some of these processes and creating a automated process moving forward. So, but that's in the future. We're going to take care of designing a process that works, and then we're going to write policy and procedure, and then we'll get into the fancy automation. So that's our timeline. So again, project status, what's done? we've established some goals. One of the things that we did as the policy and procedure development team kind of got together is we took a look at establishing what are our goals for the project, right? From a project perspective, what are we trying to achieve? And we've done that. The project structure has been defined, right? We have a project management office. We have project structure. Our teams have been identified. Team members have been onboarded. We have a website, which I'll share with you on one of the later slides, where you can go get information about our project. Currently in progress, we're developing a charter. Our charter is like right there, right? One of the biggest challenges has been identifying items in and out of scope for our project. It's a vast project. It has really basically tentacles that reach into our entire organization. So we're trying to, wrap around that, what is within and outside of the scope of the STAR project, particularly for release 1 and then again for, release 2, and trying to keep cognizant of the fact that, those things are going to be coming in the future. We have a project management plan established. We are in the process of developing our evaluation criteria models. Right now, the 3 work groups, we're calling them, for risk, organizational readiness, and business value have been established, and they're currently in the process of developing the metrics and models to support the evaluation of those 3 categories. And then our project newsletter, we're going to have a newsletter, and it's going to be our first initial version of that newsletter will be available and on our website, I assume, right, in July of 2014, so next month. Excuse me. So how to get more up-to-date information about our project, right? If I didn't provide you enough, there is more information on our website. There's the web address. Talk to your agency information officer, your chief information officer for your department. We've been actively engaged with them, and several of the different agencies, AIOs, are actually on the policy and procedure development team. So reach out, talk to your CIO, talk to your AIO, and see what they know about the STAR project. Future events, we're going to be doing events like this pretty often. So see us, look for us at future events. And visit our website to figure out, and that'll be listed where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing and what events we'll be presenting at will be listed on our website. Another thing I wanted to touch on was that we have these little portfolios of information. We're present at the table that Carlos spoke of in the lobby. The Department of Technology table, so please come see us, pick up a brochure from us, ask us any additional questions that you did not ask today or were too shy to ask in front of everybody. Come on down and see us. We'd be glad to talk to you about the project. So, any questions? Yes. Please state your name and your department, please.
Sure, I'm Karen Blumen with the Department of State Hospitals. I really like the stage gate model. I think it's a great concept. I noticed in stage 3 that I was developing RFPs, and I'm going to be talking about non-delegated purchases. So developing RFPs in stage 3, running a solicitation in stage 4, and selecting a vendor, all before you've gotten approval for the project. Now, one of the problems that I've come across is that when I'm soliciting vendors for delegated purchases, one of the first questions they'll ask me is, do you have project approval and funding for this? And so I'm worried for the non-delegated projects, the really big ones where vendors have to spend a huge amount of their own resources and money just to develop a proposal, and also the huge amount of state resources required to develop an RFP of a size. Are we going to be, have you guys put any thought into how we're going to get responses from vendors when they know that we don't even have project approval yet?
Right. That's good. That's a very good question, and I've heard that question before, so I'm actually prepared to answer it. We have, so that makes me happy, right? So we are thinking about that, and so one way you can think about it is, it's a progressive approval process, right? So your project isn't necessarily completely approved until you exit gate 4, right? But this is a progressive approval, right? And so we're thinking about ways in which we'll work with the vendor community and communicate that. And so I know the project has had active conversations about, for instance, our FSRs currently and some of our project reports are publicized on our website, right? So we're having, and vendors use that information to go they'll take a look at what work might be coming or what projects have been approved and things of that nature. So we know there's a need there. Do I have your answer yet? Specifically, no, but we know that we're going to address that need and making sure that the information that needs to be communicated to the vendor community is available, communicated, and that we're communicating the fact that we're in the process of a progressive approval, correct? So, you know, you shouldn't be at stage 3 of your project and really be at a threat to not eventually be approved, right? So, you know, you've created a sound business case, you've done sound alternatives analysis, right? Good market research, and you've been supported all along the way. Once you've reached the point where you've reached the RFP development. And so we should have a sound and pretty comfortable idea, and even in the vendor community, and it's really going to be about communicating that, right? So.
Can I just ask sorry, just a little quick follow-up question then?
Sure.
Is the stage 1, or is this process, stage gate process, is it being run in parallel with finance? Department of Finance, because if they're not talking to each other, we might have Caltech's approval for the project. They're saying, hey, you guys look good. This looks like a great project. But if finance isn't moved in and they just put it off at the knees like they frequently do, then again, we're at that stage again where the vendors are and us are putting a lot of work into something before we go out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's a valid concern, and yeah, I'll assure you, we have Department of Finance representation on the team, and so Department of Finance is definitely in the loop and is aware of all the challenges that we have aligning the stage gate model with the current budget cycle, and it's become a very helpful collaborative partnership in the development of the stage gate model. So.
Maureen Harder, Department of Public Health. I want to piggyback on that because you're putting more and more into all of the pre-approval, and so you're looking at redirected costs for a department, and you know, because usually we can't go forward with a BCP for funding a project. It won't get approved until the feasibility study that used to be is approved. So until the project is approved, you can't get the BCP approved. So we're doing more work that we have to use current funding for. And so that is stretching already current budgets even more. And I think that goes more to what you're directing to. So we're not asking only vendors to risk some of their funds, but also departments are having to eat more costs.
Right, and so in our development, we've considered that in the stage gate model. So we're working with Department of Finance currently to identify the opportunity in the stage gate model for what we're calling a procurement BCP, right? So it would really be a budget change proposal in support of that change proposal to support procurement costs rather than having to have departments redirect to cover those costs. Now that's an option because some departments will be able to redirect and would prefer to redirect to cover some of those costs potentially without having to go through a budget change request. But a change request for that purpose is part of the model. So, Jean.
Jean Fredericks, Franchise Tax. So this process, there's a lot of timing associated with this process. And so my question for you is, are you setting for yourselves and to share with us some approval timeline goals? So for example, we submit a stage 1 business analysis, we should expect to have an answer on whether it's approved within X months, X years, X days.
Right. No, that's a very good question.
Same with the other phases as well.
That's a very good question. And one of the things that we are taking a look at is we are taking a look at in the development. Some of the team members that we had on our team from the agencies and departments brought that up, right? And they're like, okay, so how is this going to affect the timing of our approval? What if we miss a complete budget cycle, right? So we are taking a look at our approval timelines and the establishment of guidelines that we will share with departments as far as the expected approval timeframe. Keep this in mind though, right? Because different projects will be approved with a different amount of rigor, right? Based upon their risk or that organization's readiness to take on that particular endeavor, right? So some projects will move, faster through the approval life cycle, while some might take a little more rigor and move a little bit slower. So there's going to be an alternating paths in that. But all along the way, we know that we have to align with the budgetary considerations and the funding considerations for those particular initiatives.
What would be helpful if, if it is going to be variable based on the complexity and the organization, et cetera, feedback to us on when we can expect responses would be really useful. If you do a first pass, you say, wow, this organization, yeah, they might not be so ready and this is going to take a lot more work. You can expect approval in 2 months instead of 1, or 6 months instead of 1, or whatever.
You know what we're doing, Gene? We're actually,
that kind of
that's really good. You know what we're actually doing is we're going to have predetermined, we're going to do our best to establish predetermined entry and exit criteria for each gate, depending upon what type of project you are. So one of the things we want to be able to communicate early to agencies and early to departments is expectations, right? So depending upon the amount of organizational readiness or the risk that you might have inherent to your initiative, right, we are going to require specific entries and exits out of stage gate 3, let's say. So we're going to require for you to have, this is just an example, right, your statement of work already created before you exit stage gate 2, right, stage 2. So things of that nature to help make sure that expectations are communicated early so that it's not by the time you get to 3, right, then I'm telling you, I need you to do, Gene, I need you to do this work, right? I can tell you much sooner. And so that's the idea is identifying expectations and communicating them as early in the process as possible. So, but
it's our expectations of your organization on how long it's going to take you to review and approve all of the stuff you're asking us to do.
True. Yeah, we can't set ourselves up to fail.
I asked that question at the beginning when the stage 1 business analysis was introduced. And at that point, there really wasn't an answer on what the expectation was on the turnaround time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just, something that would be helpful to all of us as we try to plan, is to know, okay, we should plan it and when we lay out our plan, we should expect it's going to take X months.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we will be communicating those expectations. Cool. Thank you.
Joe Penor from Corrections. When you get to the large non-delegated projects, before you do the RFP, let's say you're doing a $200 million project, I'm assuming then before we release the procurement, we would be meeting with the legislators and as a pre-budget hearing, even though the FSR hasn't been approved, you haven't awarded the contract. So is that built in? Because I don't see where they would allow us to go out and do something like that if they've had meetings before the procurement is released.
Right, that's a good point. One of the things that we're taking a look at is early communication and how we're going to share this information on these projects with our stakeholders, and the legislature being one of them. So that is one thing that we're taking a look at right now. One of the things that or one of the ideas that's kind of being kicked around, we know we need to accommodate for that business need, right? One of the ideas that's being kicked around to mitigate that is the possibility of a placeholder BCP, right, in order to communicate that. So I had some more questions.
Question, you have mentioned organizational readiness several times now. Mm-hmm. What are your measures?
We're in the process of developing those measures right now. We're taking a look at the different categories of organizational readiness. One of the things that we had begun to assess at the Department of Technology was the IT organization's readiness, right? The IT portion of and also the PMO in that office, the project management office's readiness, right? Through some lessons learned, through the lessons learned study that was performed for the Department of Technology that Carlos spoke of, one of the things that that was uncovered by that study was that it's really foundational organizational readiness, right? It's not necessarily the IT organization, and it's not really necessarily a project management office. It's the level of maturity there in that organization to make decisions and move things forward, and that's really important. And that's one of the things we're taking a look at, how we're going to go ahead and evaluate that. Can it be evaluated? Can we take a look at it? If we can, let's use that information in a proactive, positive way to make sure that their organization is focusing on being more successful. If we can identify a void in the organization, then possibly we can help through one of our opportunities for engagement to point that out in a positive way and make the project ultimately more successful. So. Any more questions?
Patty Nicealder with the Department of Transportation. Has there been any discussion about criteria as to which would fall into this whole process? And delegated projects, non-delegated projects, every department has a different level of delegation. And if if it's prior to an FSR, we haven't really discovered what the cost scenario is going to be.
Right.
And, you know, Sam and Sim have different definitions of a project. So any thoughts about that criteria?
Yeah, we've actually taken a look at that. We're in the process of developing the project models. We're going to be developing different approval tracks. And so what that means is that, you know, we need to take a look at when a project is under a department's delegated authority, what does that look like, right? So right now it looks like a delegated internal FSR. So moving forward to the stage gate model, what represents that? You know, is it a stage 2 alternatives analysis that's kept and approved internally? Perhaps, right? But yeah, to answer your question, we are definitely taking a look at what do those things look like moving forward, right? Anyone else? Michael.
Yeah, Michael from the franchise tax board. I'm going to kind of throw you a softball. I hope that.
Okay, I hope so. Come on.
So you guys are running this like a project, and you have a schedule, and all that's great, and you'll get to the end of the project. But do you have a kind of a gut sense of, because when you make a change this big, it's obviously we're not going to know in 6 months whether it works or not. It could take 2, 3, 5 years, and you guys will continue to tweak it, I'm sure. How long do you think it'll be before we look back and go, was this a success or not?
That's a good question. We've established objectives for our project. We're going to be sharing those objectives once they've been completely vetted through our executives. But in development of those objectives, knowing that they had to be measured, knowing that we had to have some metrics in which we were going to, you know, measure them against, we typically came up with a 3 to 5 year time frame for the time-bound part of the objective for measurement against success. So we're looking at about that time frame. That was a softball. Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions before I move on to Pete's presentation? All right, thank you. Don't forget to come see us at the table if you were too shy to ask your question here in the room. So thank you for your time. I'm going to pass the baton back to Graham. Okay. And then, thank you.
Thanks very much, Patrick.